My children left me to die. The doctors begged them to come, but they said, "He is nobody to us." A week later, they burst into the hospital greedily looking for an inheritance. But my bed was empty. Only a letter was on the pillow. When they read it, their faces turned white. They thought they had destroyed me. They were wrong. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. Pain stabbed my chest, yanking me from darkness. My eyes snapped open, squinting against the cold glare of fluorescent lights. The air smelled of antiseptic, sharp and sterile, cutting through the fog in my head. A steady beep, some monitor probably, drilled into my ears, each pole syncing with the throb in my ribs. Where was I? My fingers twitched, grazing stiff sheets, and I tried to sit up. Bad idea. My legs felt like lead, and a tug in my arm reminded me of the catheter taped to my skin. I winced, collapsing back onto the pillow. The room was small, all white walls and metal rails. My gaze drifted to the bedside table. My wallet, a gold watch, and my glasses. One lens cracked like a spider web. My heart skipped. Those glasses. I'd been wearing them when a flash hit me, headlights blinding me, a truck's horn blaring, metal screeching as the world spun. Then nothing. An accident. I'd been in an accident. I fumbled for the call button, my thumb trembling as I pressed it. The door creaked open and a man in a white coat stepped in, his shoes squeaking on the linoleum. Dr. Adams, his name tag read. He was older, maybe my age, with gray streaks in his hair and a face that looked kind but tired. He glanced at the monitor, then at me, his eyes softening. "Mr. Cunningham, you're awake," he said, voice low. "How do you feel?" Like I got hit by a truck. I croaked, throat dry as sandpaper. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "What happened?" He hesitated, adjusting his glasses. "You were in a car accident. Lost a lot of blood. We stabilized you, but it was close." Close. The word hung heavy like a stone in my gut. I swallowed, my mind racing. My kids, Eric, Laura, where are they? I pictured them waiting outside, Eric pacing with that impatient scowl. Laura clutching her phone, worried. They had to be here. They were my kids. Dr. Adams looked away, his fingers tightening on the chart in his hands. "We tried contacting them," he said, voice careful, like he was stepping around broken glass. "It's complicated." Complicated? I propped myself up, ignoring the fire in my chest. What's that supposed to mean? Are they okay? "They're fine," he said quickly, but his eyes didn't meet mine. He flipped a page in the chart, though I could tell he wasn't reading it. "You need to rest, Mr. Cunningham. Your body's been through a lot." Rest? I didn't want rest. I wanted answers. My kids were fine, but they weren't here. Why? The room felt colder, the beeping louder. I gripped the rail of the bed, my knuckles widening. "Doc, tell me what's going on. Where are they?" He sighed, his shoulders sagging like he'd been dreading this. "We'll talk soon, I promise. But right now, no." My voice came out sharper than I meant, hoarse arrow, but firm. "I want to know now." He stood there, chart clutched like a shield, his jaw tight. The door behind him swayed slightly, its hinges groaning. I stared at him, my heart pounding, waiting for the truth I wasn't sure I could handle. Dr. Adams sank into the chair beside my bed, the chart still in his hands. His fingers fidgeted with the edges, bending the paper slightly. Outside, rain tapped the window. a soft rhythm against the hum of the hospital. The air felt thick, like it was pressing down on me, waiting for him to speak. "I need you to stay calm, Mr. Cunningham," he said, his voice steady but heavy, like he was carrying something he didn't want to share. "You've been through enough." "Calm?" I rasped, my grip tightening on the sheets. "You said, 'My kids are fine, but they're not here. What's going on?'" He exhaled long and slow, his eyes dropping to the floor. "After the accident, you needed blood urgently. We didn't have enough of your type in the bank. I called your son, Eric, first, then your daughter, Laura." He paused, his lips pressing into a thin line. They didn't come. The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. "Didn't come. My kids." I blinked, waiting for him to take it back to say he'd misspoken. But he didn't. The monitor's beep filled the silence, each pulse mocking me. "What do you mean, didn't come?" My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "I spoke to Eric myself," Adam said, his tone softer now, almost apologetic. "I told him it was critical that you might not make it," he said. He hesitated, glancing at me like he was gauging how much I could take. He said that's his problem. His problem. The words echoed, sharp and cold, slicing through me. Eric, my son, the boy I bailed out of every mess, the one I'd handed a car, a business, a life, said that. I froze, my chest hollow, like someone had carved out my heart and left nothing behind. I saw him in my mind, grinning as I gave him the keys to that Mustang, his laugh so full of life. Had that been a lie? "And Laura?" I asked, dreading the answer, but needing it. My daughter, my little girl who'd hugged me so tight when I paid for her college, promising she'd never forget it. Adam shifted, his chair creaking. She didn't say much, just hung up, hung up. The rain outside grew louder, each drop a hammer against my skull. Laura, with her polished smiles and endless posts about gratitude, couldn't even spare a word for her dying father. I stared at the ceiling, my eyes burning, but I wouldn't let the tears fall. Not yet. "I'm sorry, James," Adam said, using my first name for the first time. His hand hovered over my shoulder, then dropped. "I didn't want to tell you like this, but you deserved to know." Deserved. The word felt wrong, like a consolation prize for a game I'd already lost. I turned my head toward the window, the glass streaked with rain, blurring the world outside. "Can you leave me alone for a bit?" My voice was flat, empty. He nodded, standing. "I'll check on you soon. If you need anything, I won't." I didn't look at him. The door creaked as he left, the sound fading into the quiet. Allo and I stared at the rain, each drop a reminder of what I'd lost. My kids, my family. My reason to keep going. Why fight for them now? Why fight at all? The rain had slowed to a drizzle, its soft patter the only sound in the room. I lay still, staring at the ceiling, the tiles above me a map of cracks and stains. My chest ached, not just from the accident but from something deeper, a void that grew with every breath. Eric's words, his problem, looped in my head, tangled with Laura's silence. My kids, my blood, they'd left me to die. I turned my head, my neck stiff, and my eyes landed on the bedside table. My watch sat there, gold and worn, its face etched with a faint inscription. To James, forever, Clara. My wife's gift, given the day we learned she wouldn't make it. I reached out, my fingers brushing the warm metal, and for a moment I felt her hand in mine, steady, and sure. Clara would have fought for me, but she was gone, and the kids I'd raised in her memory had turned their backs. I closed my eyes, memories flooding in. Eric and Laura, so small they barely reached my knees, giggling as I read them stories, their heads nestled against my chest. I'd given up promotions, worked nights, built a life for them. Every sacrifice, every choice was for them. And for what? To be discarded like an old debt. The thought crept in, quiet but heavy. Maybe I should let go. Just close my eyes. Let the pain take me. No more fighting, no more betrayal. The monitor's beep slowed, matching my shallow breaths. And I wondered if it would be that easy to slip away, to stop being his problem. But then another memory surfaced, sharper, fiercer. Years ago, when my business was crumbling, I'd sat in a dark office, bills piling up, everyone telling me to quit. I didn't. I clawed my way back, built an empire from nothing. That man, that James, didn't give up. He fought. I opened my eyes, my jaw tightening. Was I really ready to let their betrayal win? My gaze flicked to the watch again. Clara's voice echoed in my mind. You're stronger than you know. I wasn't done. Not yet. I shifted, wincing as pain shot through my ribs, and reached for my phone on the table. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling. Michael, my friend, my lawyer. He'd understand. He'd know what to do. I stared at the phone, my thumb poised over his name. The room was silent now, the rain gone, leaving only the faint hum of the hospital. Could I trust him? Could I trust anyone? The door to the room felt far away, but in my mind, it was opening, leading somewhere new. I just had to take the first step. The phone felt heavy in my hand, its cracked screen glowing faintly in the dim hospital room. My thumb hovered over Michael's name, the weight of my kid's betrayal pressing down like a stone in my chest. Eric's cold words, his problem, and Laura's silence churned in my mind, fueling a fire I hadn't felt in years. I'd given them everything, college, cars, second chances, and they'd left me to die. No more. I wasn't done yet. I pressed the call button, my heart thudding against my bruised ribs. The drip in my arm pulsed with each beep of the monitor, a reminder I was still here, still fighting. The line clicked, and Michael's voice came through, warm, but edged with that familiar sarcasm. James, you're alive. I was about to send a search party. Not funny, I said, my voice, but steady. I leaned back against the pillow, the sheets crinkling under me. They didn't come, Mike. Eric, Laura. They didn't even answer the hospital's calls. Silence on the other end. Then a low whistle. That's low, even for them. What did they say? I recounted Dr. Adams' words, each one cutting deeper as I spoke. Eric's dismissal, Laura's hang-up. It was like they'd erased me. My fingers tightened around the phone, the plastic creaking. I'm done being their doormat. They think I'm finished, but they're wrong. Michael chuckled, the sound sharp and knowing. That's the James the First no. So, what's the plan? Epic revenge, Shakespearean drama. Something better? I said, a grim smile tugging at my lips. But I need your help. Can you meet me when I'm out of here? Name the time and place. Boss? His tone shifted. Serious now. By the way, I heard something you won't like. Your kids. They're already sniffing around lawyers talking about your estate, like you're already gone. The words hit like a slap. My estate, the house, the business, everything I'd built. They were circling it like vultures. I pictured the house, its creaky porch and faded photos, the place Clara and I had raised them. They wanted to sell it to tear it apart for cash. My jaw clenched, the pain in my chest fading under a wave of cold resolve. Let them try, I said. We'll make sure they get nothing. Atta boy, Michael said. I'll dig into their moves, see what else they're planning. We'll hit M where it hurts. Good. I glanced at the bedside table where Clara's watch gleamed under the fluorescent light. Its inscription to James forever felt like a promise I had to keep. Start with their accounts. I want to know everything. Consider it done. Michael's voice was all business now. Rest up, James. You've got a war to win. I ended the call, my pulse racing. The room was quiet save for the hum of the drip and the faint rattle of a cart outside. My eyes locked on the watch, its second hand ticking steadily like a heartbeat. A memory flashed. Michael and me years ago, toasting a deal that saved my company from ruin. He'd had my back then, and he had it now. I leaned back, the pillow cool against my neck, and whispered to the empty room. They'll see. They'll all see. The hospital room felt smaller now, the walls closing in as I clutched my phone. Its scuffed case dug into my palm, the screen lighting up with a new message from Michael. Check your email. You're going to want to see this. My stomach twisted. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying Michael's warning about Eric and Laura plotting over my estate. What were they doing now? I opened the email, my thumb trembling as I scrolled. Michael had sent screenshots, texts between my kids and some lawyer forwarded through his contacts. The words burned into me. Eric, house is worth at least $2 million. Sell it. Pay my debts. Laura, I need a place downtown. Something chic. Smiling face with smiling eyes. A smiley face. She was planning her new life with my money like I was already buried. I zoomed in, my eyes narrowing at Eric's next message. He's not coming back. Let's move fast. The arrogance, the certainty. They thought I was done. I remembered the day I'd handed Eric a check for his restaurant, his eyes bright with promises. I'll make you proud. Dad. Lies. He'd run it into the ground, and now he wanted my home to cover his mistakes. Laura was no better, her blog filled with fake gratitude while she eyed my bank account for her next photo op. The monitor beeped louder now, matching the fury in my chest. I tossed my head back on the pillow, the starched fabric scratching my neck. My house, the one Clara loved, with its sagging bookshelves and her old garden out back, was just a paycheck to them. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached, the cracked screen blurring as my eyes stung. My phone buzzed again. Michael? I answered, my voice low. You saw their texts. Yeah, he said, his tone sharp with disgust. They're not even pretending to care. Eric's debts are a mess. Creditors are circling. Laura's just greedy. Wants a penthouse to flex online. I swallowed the lump in my throat like gravel. They're betting on me being dead. Not on my watch, Michael said. We can freeze their access to your accounts. Lock them out. It'll hit them hard. You in? Do it, I said, my voice cold. But first, get more proof. I want it airtight. Smart man. I could hear his grin. I'm on it. They'll be crying by tomorrow. I hung up, my gaze drifting to the window. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds like the weight of my kids' betrayal. I pictured the house empty, its doors locked against them. A memory hit. Eric years ago boasting about his restaurant while I wrote another check. I'd believed in him. Fool. Now I'd take it all back. Every key, every cent, every chance they'd squandered. My thumb hovered over the bank's number, my heart pounding. Outside, a crow landed on the sill, its beady eyes staring through the glass. I leaned forward, ignoring the ache in my ribs, and imagined stripping Eric and Laura of everything they valued. The phone felt like a weapon in my hand, ready to fire the first shot. Sunlight slipped through the hospital blinds, painting stripes on the wall. I sat up, wincing as my ribs protested, and grabbed my phone. The weight of yesterday's decision, locking Eric and Laura out, felt real now, like a fire in my bones. They'd spent years bleeding me dry, and I was done. Today I'd start taking back control. I dialed the bank, my voice steady despite the cough that scratched my throat. The employee on the line, a woman with a bored tone, picked up. "First National, how can I help?" "James Cunningham," I said, leaning forward, the 4-line tugging at my arm. "I need to block all secondary cards on my accounts. Eric and Laura Cunningham effective immediately." She hesitated, keys clicking in the background. "Sir, that's unusual. Can you confirm the account details?" I rattled off the numbers, my memory sharp despite the haze of painkillers. My eyes flicked to Clara's watch on the bedside table, its steady tick grounding me. I pictured Laura swiping her card for another designer bag. Eric dodging creditors. With my money. "Not anymore." "Done," the woman said finally, her voice tinged with surprise. "The cards are disabled. Anything else?" "No, that's all." I hung up, a rush of triumph flooding my chest. It was small, but it was a start. I leaned back, the pillow cool against my neck, and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. A memory flashed. Laura, batting her eyes as she asked for a new card for her blog projects. I'd said yes, like always. Never again. The door swung open and a nurse stepped in, her tray clinking with supplies. She glanced at me, her eyes crinkling above her mask. "You look like you just won the lottery, Mr. Cunningham." "Something better," I said, a half smile breaking through. She laughed, checking my chart, and the normality of it felt strange, like a pause before a storm. My phone buzzed. "Michael." A text. "Cards blocked. Kids are freaking out. Eric's blowing up his lawyer's phone." I grinned. The first real smile in days. I could see it. Eric's red face, Laura's fake tears as their plans crumbled. They'd thought I was weak, finished. They were wrong. The nurse left, the door creaking shut, and I stared at the sunlight on the wall. It felt like a sign, a crack in the darkness. Another memory hit. Eric, years ago, promising to pay me back for his restaurant. I'd believed him, handed over the cash, watched him fail. Now I was the one cutting the strings. My phone vibrated again, the screen lighting up with Eric's name. My smile faded. He was calling, probably furious, ready to beg or yell. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button. The room was quiet, the sunlight warm on my hand. I set the phone face down on the table, letting it buzz, and turned my eyes to the window where the world was waiting. The phone buzzed again, Eric's name flashing on the cracked screen. My thumb hovered, pulse quickening as the hospital room's sterile air pressed against my skin. The tray of untouched lunch, congealed soup, and a soggy roll sat on the bedside table, its faint onion smell mixing with the sharp tang of disinfectant. I took a slow breath, steeling myself, and answered, "Dad, what the hell?" Eric's voice exploded through the speaker, raw and jagged like he'd been yelling for hours. "You blocked our cards. You trying to ruin us?" I leaned back against the pillow, the 4-line tugging at my arm. His anger was no surprise, but it still stung. a dull ache beneath my ribs. "Ruin you," I said, keeping my tone even, almost amused. "I'm just protecting what's mine." "Protecting?" he spat. "You're screwing us over. I've got bills, Dad. Creditors breathing down my neck. You know that." I pictured him red-faced, pacing outside some bar, probably his life unraveling because I'd cut the strings. A memory flickered. Laura twirling in a new dress paid for with my card, giggling about her brand. I'd smiled then, proud fool. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you left me here to die," I said, my voice low, sharp silence, then a rustle. Laura's voice cut in syrupy sweet, the kind she used for her followers. "Daddy, please. We're worried about you. This isn't like you. Let's talk." "Okay, we can fix this." Worried. The word was a blade, twisting in my gut. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles pale against the dark case. "Fix it," I chuckled, the sound bitter like you fix things by hanging up when the hospital called. "Save your act, Laura. I'm not buying it." "You're being cruel," she said, her tone hardening, the mask slipping. "We're your kids. You owe us. Oh, you." My voice rose just enough to carry the edge I felt. "I gave you everything. Cars, college, your damn restaurant, Eric. And you couldn't even show up when I was bleeding out. We're done," Eric snarled. "Back on the line. You'll regret this, old man. We'll get what's ours, but one way or another. Good luck," I said, and hung up before they could respond. The phone clattered onto the table next to Clara's watch, its steady tick filling the quiet. My chest heaved, a mix of triumph and grief washing over me. They were my kids, my blood, and I just slammed the door on them. Was I right, or was I becoming the monster they'd paint me as? The door creaked, and a nurse stepped in, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. She glanced at me, her brows knitting. "You okay, Mr. Cunningham? Look like you're planning a war." I forced a smile, my fingers brushing the phone. "Just settling some debts." She laughed, adjusting my fore. "Well, you're looking stronger. Keep it up." She left, the door groaning shut, and I stared at the ceiling, the shadows of the blinds slicing the light. Eric's thread echoed. "We'll get what's ours. Let them try." I reached for the phone again, scrolling to Michael's number. Whatever came next, I'd be ready. The hospital room was too quiet. The hum of the monitor, a faint pulse in the background. I sat up, ignoring the dull ache in my chest, and dialed Michael. The phone's weight felt good in my hand, like a tool I was finally learning to wield. Clara's watch gleamed on the bedside table, its second hand marching forward, urging me on. Eric and Laura thought they could bully me into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Michael picked up on the first ring, his voice crackling with energy. "James, you ready to turn up the heat?" "More than ready," I said, my tone firm despite the rasp in my throat. "I want them out of my house. Change the locks, get their stuff, clothes, gadgets, all of it, onto the lawn. Let them see what it's like to lose something." He laughed, a sharp, gleeful sound. "Oh, I'm already on it. Got a locksmith at the house now, and I'm hauling their junk out as we speak. Eric's fancy TV, Laura's shoe collection. It's all hitting the grass." I closed my eyes, picturing it. Boxes piled under the oak tree, rain soaking Laura's dresses, Eric's electronics shorting out. A rush of satisfaction warmed me, but a pang followed, sharp and unexpected. A memory surfaced. Christmas years ago. The kids, small and wide-eyed, stringing lights on a lopsided tree in that same living room. Their laughter had filled the house back when it was a home. I shook it off, my jaw tightening. That was gone. They'd made their choice. "Send me proof when it's done," I said, opening my eyes. "I want to see it." "You got it," Michael said. "This will hit M where it hurts. They'll be screaming by noon." "Good." I hung up, my fingers drumming on the sheets. The room smelled of antiseptic and stale coffee, the air heavy with the weight of what I just ordered. Was I going too far? No. They'd pushed me here, left me to rot. This was justice. The door swung open and the nurse from earlier stepped in, her tray clinking with fresh bandages. She glanced at me, her eyes narrowing. "You're awfully quiet, Mr. Cunningham. Everything all right?" "Better than ever," I said, managing a half smile. She didn't need to know the storm in my head. She raised an eyebrow, swapping out my for bag. "Well, you're healing fast. Keep that fire in you." She left, and I leaned back, the pillow cool against my neck. My phone buzzed. Michael, with a photo. I opened it, my breath catching. There it was, a heap of boxes on the lawn, Laura's heels spilling out. Eric's gaming console half covered by a tarp. Rain streaked the image, blurring the edges like a painting of my revenge. I stared at the screen, a grim satisfaction settling in. But then another buzz. Laura's name. A text. "You serious? We're coming to the house." My smile faded, my pulse quickening. They were running to the scene, ready to fight. Fine, let them see the new locks, the closed doors. I set the phone down, my eyes drifting to the window where rain tapped the glass like a countdown. Rain drummed against the hospital window, a steady rhythm that matched the thud in my chest. My phone lit up again, Eric's name glaring on the screen. I knew what was coming. Michael's photo of their belongings on the lawn had probably reached them. I took a slow breath, the air sharp with the scent of coffee from the nurse's earlier visit, and answered, "You threw our stuff out." Eric's voice was a roar, thick with fury, the sound of rain and wind crackling in the background. "You're insane. It's pouring, and my gear's ruined." I leaned back, my fingers curling around the phone, my voice calm as ice. "My house, my rules. You don't live there anymore. You can't do this," he shouted, his words tripping over each other. "That's our home," was I corrected, my tone flat. "You made it clear I'm nothing to you. Now you get to feel the same." Laura's voice broke in shrill and shaking, cutting through the patter of rain. "Daddy, this is cruel. We'll sue you for this. You can't just kick us out. Sue me." I chuckled, the sound low and bitter. "Go ahead. It's my name on the deed. You've got nothing." I pictured them standing on the lawn, soaked, scrambling to save their precious things. A twisted part of me savored it. A memory hit last year, sitting them down, begging them to take responsibility. Eric had laughed. Laura rolled her eyes, both dismissing me like I was a nagging old man. I'd let it slide, hoping they'd change. "No more." "You're a monster," Laura hissed, her voice venomous now. "You'll pay for this." "I already have," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my ribs. "You made sure of that when you left me here." I hung up the silence in the room louder than their screams. My hand trembled as I set the phone down, Clara's watch ticking softly beside it. Their threats hung in the air, but I felt no fear, only a cold, hard resolve. My phone buzzed again. "Michael." A text. Locks changed. They're losing it out there. I nodded to myself, a faint smile tugging at my lips. They were cornered, and I was just getting started. A memory of the house flashed, its creaky stairs, Clara's garden, now locked against them, a fortress I controlled. The door creaked, and the nurse stepped in, her clipboard tucked under her arm. "Good news, Mr. Cunningham," she said, her voice bright. "Doctor says you're clear for discharge soon. Ready to go home, home?" The words sparked something in me, a mix of longing and defiance. "Yeah," I said, my eyes drifting to the bedside table where my wallet and watch waited. "I'm ready." She left, and I stared at my things, the watch's faint glow catching the light. I pictured the house, its new locks gleaming, the lawn littered with their past. They thought they could bully me, break me, but I was coming back, stronger than they'd ever imagined. The rain outside slowed, and I leaned forward, my mind already at the front door. The hospital room felt emptier now, its white walls no longer a cage, but a stepping stone. My bag sat on the chair, packed with a few things I'd had here, a change of clothes, my wallet, Clara's watch. The monitor's beep had stopped, unhooked hours ago, and the silence was almost jarring, broken only by the soft squeak of the nurse's sneakers as she bustled in. Her name tag read Maggie, and her smile was warm, like she'd seen me through the worst and was rooting for me now. Ready to break out. "Mr. Cunningham?" she asked, adjusting the blinds. Sunlight spilled in, dusting the room with gold. "More than you know," I said, managing a grin despite the ache in my ribs. I stood, leaning on the bed for balance, my legs still shaky but holding me up. I was leaving not just this room, but the man I'd been weak, hopeful, blind to my kids' betrayal. Maggie handed me my jacket, her eyes twinkling. "You've got that look like a general heading to battle." I chuckled, slipping the jacket on. "Maybe I am." My gaze drifted to the small table by the bed, its surface scratched and worn. I sat, pulling a sheet of hospital stationery from the drawer. A pen lay nearby, its cap chewed like someone had been nervous here before me. I wasn't nervous, not anymore. I started writing, the pen gliding across the page, each word deliberate to Eric and Laura. Not a plea, not an apology, a statement. My hand was steady, my thoughts clear. I didn't rush, didn't second guess. A memory flickered. Sitting at our old kitchen table, writing love letters to Clara, her laughter filling the house as she read them. The ache of her absence tugged at me, but I pushed it down. This wasn't about love. This was about justice. My phone buzzed, Michael's name lighting up the screen. I answered, keeping my voice low. "Everything's set like clockwork," he said, his tone smug. The wheels updated, notarized, airtight. "Your kids? They're on their way to the hospital, probably to beg or scream. You sure you're ready for this?" "Let them come," I said, folding the letter. "They'll find what I left them." Michael laughed. "You're a cold one, James. I like it. Call me when you're out." I hung up, sealing the letter in an envelope. I placed it on the pillow. Its crisp white edge stark against the rumpled sheets. Eric and Laura would storm in, expecting to find me weak, pliable. Instead, they'd find this, a piece of paper that would shatter their world. I stood, grabbing my bag, and took one last look at the room. The watch on the table glinted, Clara's inscription, a quiet strength in my chest. Maggie poked her head in. "Cab's waiting." "General?" I nodded, slinging the bag over my shoulder. The door creaked as I stepped into the hall, its hinges groaning like they were reluctant to let me go. My shoes echoed on the linoleum, each step a promise. I was walking out, not just from the hospital, but into something new. Behind me, the door swung shut, and I didn't look back. The taxi hummed along the streets of our small Ohio town, the world outside a blur of brick storefronts and budding trees. I leaned against the cool window, the leather seat creaking under me, the faint smell of air freshener mixing with the city's damp spring air. My phone vibrated in my pocket, but I ignored it for now, my mind still on the letter I'd left behind. Its words were a weight lifted, a line drawn. Eric and Laura would be at the hospital by now, tearing into that envelope, their faces falling as they read. A memory surfaced, pushing the kids on swings at the park, their laughter bright, my dreams of a close family stretching out like a sunny afternoon. I'd held on to that dream too long. Even as their greed grew, their love faded. The taxi hit a pothole, jarring me back. Those days were gone. I was done chasing ghosts. My phone buzzed again, insistent. Eric's name flashed. I answered, my voice flat. What? Dad, what is this? His voice was a mix of rage and panic. The hospital's hum faint in the background. You're giving everything to charity. Everything. Laura cut in, her tone pleading, cracking at the edges. Daddy, please. We're sorry. We didn't mean it. Any of it. Don't do this. I stared out of the window, the town slipping by, its quiet streets a contrast to the storm in their voices. You made your choice, I said, each word cold, deliberate. You left me to die. This is the consequence. Eric's voice rose, desperate. This is crazy. You can't just erase us. Watch me, I said, and hung up. The phone went dark in my hand, their voices cut off like a slammed door. My chest tightened, not with regret, but with a strange relief. I'd carried their weight too long. Every bailout, every excuse, no more. A text from Michael popped up. You did it, man. They're done. Proud of you. I nodded to myself, a faint smile tugging at my lips. The taxi slowed at a light and I pulled my wallet from my pocket. Inside was a photo, creased and faded. Eric and Laura as kids, grinning at a fair cotton candy smudging their faces. I traced the edge, the ache of what could have been sharp, but fleeting. Then I slipped it into my coat pocket, out of sight, but not forgotten. The driver glanced back. You okay, sir? Yeah, I said, my voice steady. Just heading home. He nodded and the taxi rolled on, the town's familiar shapes unfolding outside. The hospital was behind me, the letter's truth sinking into my kids' lives like a stone. I leaned back, the city's pulse thrumming through the glass, and felt something new. Freedom sharp and clean, waiting just beyond the next turn. The cafe buzzed with life, the air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and warm pastries. I sat by the window, the wooden table scratched from years of use, a half-empty mug in front of me. Outside, the streets of our Ohio town hummed, kids on bikes, couples strolling, the spring sun glinting off shop windows. Michael sat across from me, his tie loosened, a grin spreading as he flipped through papers about the charities we'd chosen. You're a regular saint now, James, he teased, tapping the documents, giving it all to kids, hospitals, housing programs. Hell, you're rewriting your legacy. I laughed, the sound easier than it had been in months. Just doing what feels right. They'll make better use of it than my kids ever would. He leaned back, sipping his coffee. Speaking of, heard from Eric, or Laura, not since the hospital. I shrugged, the weight of their names lighter now. They're out of moves. Let them figure it out. Michael nodded, his eyes softening. You're a tougher man than I am. But damn, you pulled it off. I looked out the window, a memory flickering, planning my will years ago, picturing Eric and Laura, grateful, carrying on my name. I'd been so sure they'd value it, value me. Instead, they'd valued my bank account. The sting was still there, but it was dull, like a bruise fading. I'd built something better now, something that mattered. My fingers brushed my wallet and I pulled out the photo of the kids, Eric and Laura, young and carefree, their smiles frozen in time. I stared at it, the cafe's chatter fading. They'd been my world once, my reason to fight. Now they were a chapter closed. I opened the table's small drawer, a quirky feature of this old place, and slid the photo inside. It felt right, letting them go without anger, without regret. "You good?" Michael asked, watching me. "Yeah," I said, closing the drawer with a soft click. "Better than good." He raised his mug to the new James Cunningham, then world changer. I clinked my mug against his, the ceramic warm in my hand to starting over. The cafe door jingled, a family stepping in, their laughter bright. I watched them, then turned to the window. The town alive with possibility. A new project was forming in my mind. Maybe a community center, something to give back. The thought sparked a quiet excitement, a purpose I hadn't felt in years. I lifted my coffee, the steam curling like a promise, and smiled. The world was open, and I was ready to walk through its doors. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.